everyone, and welcome to GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling podcast I run over here on YouTube.com. And this is going to be for Survivor Series 2019, and this show, I feel to a certain degree, is going to be a very polarizing one to a lot of different people, especially with the way the main event went to go along with it, and how it came off perceivably to a lot of different people on that one as well. I will be giving my opinions about pretty much all the matches on this show, but overall, I would say this was a fairly enjoyable show from I would say fairly enjoyable throughout the entire area, with the exceptions of a couple of different matches, and I'll get into all that here to go along with it. Pre-show side, they had a 10-team battle royal, which ended up being won by Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Overall, for the match itself, it was a decent enough battle royal on the show. Nothing really special about it, anything to go on that side. Nothing major to really talk about on that one as well. With that is on that one. The only interesting note that I really took throughout this entire match was that there are times that, they're doing this whole thing about brand supremacy with the show itself, everything with Survivor Series. It seemed weird that at the beginning of the Battle Royal, you were having teams basically that were on NXT side. They were fighting NXT teams. SmackDown teams would fight SmackDown teams as well. And then Raw teams would fight Raw teams as well. It was a little bit weird in certain instances to go along with that. You didn't really get a sense of the brand supremacy thing with that one. You kind of got the sense of that during the show itself, but in this case, not so much. Now, good note for everything that was going along here, and I guess they could play this along for storylines as well, is that they had the pre-show matches count this year. Last year, the pre-show matches the pre-show match itself, the one that happened between Raw and SmackDown, just didn't count. This year, it actually did count. And technically, in this sense, SmackDown won this one. Match wasn't much of anything. Up next was the Cruiserweight title match. It was Kalisto going up against Akira Tozawa. I don't know why I was stumbling over his name there for a brief second. Going up against Lio Rush, who was the current champion. Honestly, I thought this was a well-paced match. I've always enjoyed the Cruiserweight matches. This was definitely not to the level that they had kind of done on NXT side with the Cruiserweight title matches that they've done on NXT TV. But overall, I thought this was a good match with a very good pace to it. Lio Rush ends out winning this match with the final hour. Like I said, enjoyable match. I've always enjoyed the Cruiserweights to go along with that. Up next was the New Day going up against the Undisputed Era, going up against the Viking Raiders. This was the first of the triple threat matches that were against with the champions. And honestly, I thought this was a decent enough match. I wouldn't really say this was a great match by any stretch of the imagination. This is one of those matches where I will say it's like, it kind of was what it was, to be honest with you. I felt like it was a little too, it just didn't feel like everything was clicking. It didn't really feel like it was all that great on that one. It didn't feel like everybody was kind of clicking on their own areas. And that was like with certain spots that you just saw in there where I think Kofi got launched to the outside. It's a great looking spot. Like the action in the ring I thought was good, but in the terms of the match quality and the storytelling that they were going through the entire match, I didn't think it clicked personally. And this is the one spot that I kind of really bring up to it. Kofi got tossed outside the ring by Big E, and then one of the Viking Raiders just kind of walked over to the ropes, walked back outside the ropes, and then Big E did the spear to go along with it. There were a few instances like that in the match where it fell off. And like I said, the action in the ring I thought was quite good, but in the terms of their story and the believability of the match and everything to go along with it, felt off with that one. So we start with the main show. They started with the women's triple threat elimination match. This was fun. This entire match was fun. At least to me, it felt fun. going through the entire areas, and I'll try to get but like all the different eliminations. I'm not really trying to go off on a full recap of everything for there, but I do have notes in there. And one of the reasons why I found this match fun, and also found the men's elimination match to be fun, is because you're finding stories here and there for things that they could begin with down the line, and they had an overarching story throughout the entire match, and then it also teased 4 matches down the line to go along with that, especially with Charlotte and Asuka. Asuka and Charlotte started bickering at one point later on in the match, which Charlotte actually starts attacking Asuka to that certain degree, and then eventually Asuka comes back and poison mist Charlotte, which causes Charlotte to get eliminated, and Asuka leaves, and she just eliminates herself, leaving Natalya on her own, which definitely came off as a very interesting little story tidbit. You had something going on there with all sides on that one. NXT kind of worked together no matter what, even though, which was kind of weird because you just had, especially with Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, because they had a takeover match against each other. They also had another match against each other on NXT TV, and you could just tell they didn't like each other. They also played off this little story that they got hurt, but then they came back to ringside, so you didn't know whether or not they were eliminated or not at that point. That was one of the weirder points of this one. But in the end, it's Io Shirai and Candice LeRae causing distractions, which allows Io Shirai to hit a springboard missile drop kick to Sasha, who was the final participant, and then Rhea Ripley ends up hitting the Riptide and picking up the victory on that one. Honestly, like I said, I thought this was a good match. I thought this was very good. It sets up for other storylines down the line. The NXT people got to show off a little bit. You also had the obligatory moment. You kind of get this in a lot of different elimination matches where everybody kind of comes in and does a big move and everything to go along with that. You also had Carmella hitting a top rope Frankensteiner in this match. Nothing crazy in the terms of other storylines going. I think the major storyline beat that they're going with this one is that you have Asuka and Charlotte probably going to be having another feud. Maybe this is going to be a point where Asuka kind of gets a win over Charlotte. I don't know exactly where they're going to go with it, but you definitely feel like they're going to have some kind of feud going down the line here. Up next, you have Seth Rollins. He comes in, he's cutting a promo. He wants to know where Kevin Owens stands. He walks up to Kevin Owens. He wants to know where he stands after doing what he had done and going to NXT the night before, which he ends out basically saying it's like, hey, I did that to get back at the Undisputed Era. And then it's like, throws back at him for questioning his loyalty and throws back at what he had done with the Shield and questions his own loyalty to go along with it. Would we get a turn in any way, shape, or form? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Up next, we have Shinsuke Nakamura going up against Roderick Strong and AJ Styles. And this was one of those matches that I was kind of like, I hope this ends up being good. I hope this ends up being great. It was one of those areas of the show that you weren't going to get a lot of story, full-on story about this one. This is one of those work rate matches, and honestly, I thought it was really good because they were selling and telling a decent story throughout the entire match, and also the aspects of Sami Zayn trying to get involved and even throwing AJ Styles into the post at one point in time. You do have a lot of back and forth between all three guys, even to the point also again like Sami Zayn doing his thing. He pulls Shinsuke Nakamura out of the ring to have Roderick Strong and AJ Styles fight it out for a little while because Shinsuke was in a bad spot. And eventually, also, they do like this Doomsday Device style move where Styles has Roderick Strong on his shoulders, but Shinsuke ends out doing this kick, which turns into kind of a Doomsday Device to go along with it. I thought that was really good. Honestly, overall, I really did enjoy this match. I thought the pace was very high, but there was also a decent amount of selling to go along with it. They did get a CM Punk chant out of this one because Shinsuke Nakamura did do a GTS inside there as well. Shinsuke does hit the Kinshasa, but it ends up getting broken up. Eventually, AJ hits the phenomenal forearm on Shinsuke. Roderick Strong throws Styles out of the ring and gets the pin and gets out of Dodge with the victory. Again, overall, very enjoyable match, and it was just a lot of fun on those sides of everything. Backstage, again, you do have another segment where you have The Miz walking up to Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's getting ready for his match, and Miz kind of gives his own thing about it. Like, yes, we don't like each other, but you need to stop the Fiend tonight. And, of course, in typical Daniel Bryan fashion, it's like he doesn't want to have anything to do with The Miz, doesn't even fully acknowledge to its own degree. It just tells him to get out of his face. And that's how that segment ends. Also, I thought this was a pretty good segment. Again, the kind of, I feel like they're building up to something again with that one. They did have that feud last year that just did not work out. And honestly, it's hard to say whether or not they're going to go that route again. We'll see if that does end up being the case at some point in time. But also, we'll talk about that match a little bit later as well. And again, like I said, I felt like most of these matches were actually quite good tonight. Especially on the in-ring side, I thought most were very good. And stories in some cases, it was kind of lacking. But up next, we have Pete Dunne going up against Adam Cole, and this is for the NXT title. And no, this is not one of those matches where I thought the in-ring action was absolutely fantastic, because it was. But this was also one of those ones where they were kind of telling the story from the night before. And even having Pete Dunne kind of work over the arms and also the midsection of Adam Cole, who, yes, was wearing his DDT, not DDT, but DDP style rib tape, selling the effects of War Games from the night before. Honestly, this was just really good stuff throughout the entire match. You did get them kicking out of finishers every now and again. Honestly, this was I wouldn't say this was a and it wasn't like they were kicking out finishers left and right or anything like that. It was just one to go along with it. And just honestly, overall, this was a very enjoyable match. Was it TakeOver level? Hard to say, because you're doing something like this on a main roster. And I feel like even with an NXT title match being on a main roster show, it has a different feel and a different outlook than it necessarily does on an NXT TakeOver, where you get a different vibe and a different feel when it comes to a TakeOver show versus we can't really say main roster, but one of the normal WWE pay-per-views. They have different vibes, different feels to them. And honestly, I thought this was really good. Great match. The whole aspect of the Panama Sunrise on the apron. Also, Adam Cole kicking out of the bitter end, and also taking the last shot as well. Was some good stuff inside of there. They did go to the aspect of the finger breaking to go along with that. Just things like that in the match came off really well. They even did that bit where close to the end of the match, you had that Panama Sunrise on the ring apron. Adam Cole beats the count relatively decently. Pete Dunne barely beats it, so he starts getting up. You would kind of think, oh, maybe he has a chance to do something. No, he immediately eats a super kick for a 2 count. And as it looks like that Pete Dunne's going for another bitter end, Adam Cole actually ends out countering it and does it into a Panama Sunrise. It was a very good looking spot and just came off great. After that was he does do another last shot, gets the victory that way. Honestly, like I said, great match. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. As well as this match as well, because it was the first of the or not the first, but the second of the title matches on the show that was for the main titles. So if you kind of notice this, you had like Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT for a lot of stuff, with the exception of the 3 major men's titles on the show to go along with it. So this is the second one. It was going to be Daniel Bryan going up against The Fiend. First thing that I kind of recognized and still don't necessarily like is that they're keeping the red light around. It didn't really hamper in the terms of the experience of watching the match. Honestly, again, this is a really good match. And they did a much better job of making The Fiend, yes, look unstoppable, but not destroying a finisher like they did with the stomp. So, as we knew with all the matches with Seth Rollins, like The Fiend kicks out of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stomps. We only see one running knee in this entire match. And a lot of the no-selling is coming from the kicks and the other strikes. And even to the point of, it's like, oh, it looks like The Fiend's down, but gets back up. And things like that. And I thought they did a really good job here. They even get to the point of Daniel Bryan bringing back the yes chance. When he goes for the running knee, hits it, only gets a 2 on that one. And it looks like he's going to continue going for it again. And but The Fiend gets a mandible claw where it looks like because Daniel Bryan was continually going for missile drop kicks, which The Fiend keeps getting back up from. Eventually, The Fiend gets the mandible claw when he's on the ropes, but this allows for Daniel Bryan to actually go for an armbar there. It gets broken as it looks like he's going to go for another running knee because he counters a Sister Abigail again. Bray Wyatt hits the mandible claw and then eventually ends up pinning Daniel Bryan to the mat with the mandible claw. Honestly, it was a good match. It was a very good match, very enjoyable, and I just overwhelmingly did enjoy this particular match. Up next, we had a Rey Mysterio promo. Again, Rey Mysterio has been doing really good with his promo work as of late when it comes to doing everything, especially with the stuff with Brock Lesnar, everything on that one, going over everything again. And a very good promo here, basically talking about the WWE title match, which will be a little bit later. This leads us into the men's elimination tag team match. And man, this was fun and confusing, and some weirdness did happen in this one. You do get some more storyline build as I knock my mic around. We run a full professional ship here, apparently. Or as professional as we possibly can on those ones. Oops. But honestly, like I said, this was fun. There's a bit of confusion. And there was like these little snippets of story elements in there. But there are also snippets of like, are they going there with this? Where are they going now? Necessarily. The one clear thing about this one is that they're going to continue this Roman Reigns Baron Corbin thing, which, you know, we haven't really had a paid off one-on-one match with that one quite yet. So, you know, they're going to go there with it. So it was an interesting story of Baron Corbin on the SmackDown side. He was doing a really good job of eliminating people, but also getting his teammates eliminated as well. To go along with that. So he eliminates Ricochet with a End of Days. He also eventually gets a pin on, I don't think it was Ciampa. I forget who else it was. It was Riddle. He got a pin on Riddle and a pin on Ricochet. But he also was like the cause of two of the other eliminations on the SmackDown side as well. To go along with it, especially the one with Ali. And also, he does go after Roman Reigns a little bit, which eventually caused him to get Superman punched and speared by Roman on that one. Yes, that's kind of one of the weird portions of it. The other weird portion is how Braun Strowman got eliminated out of the only countout of the night. The only time in any of the triple threat matches that the referee ever did a count out was when Braun Strowman got eliminated. Now, granted, yes, all three guys were on the outside of the ring, but last I remembered, the triple threat matches, they've been no count out, no DQ. So I asked the question, how do you get counted out in a triple threat match when they've kind of been... Yeah, they just went with that one, didn't they? Yeah, they just went with that portion of it. Like I said, that was like some of the confusing side of it. You had this bit where, you know, Matt Riddle's like massively hyped up because he eliminated Randy Orton, but Randy Orton just RKOs him. That allows Baron Corbin to swoop in and get the pin. Walter does get eliminated rather early inside of the match. He gets hit with a Claymore by Drew McIntyre. But just overall, with everything that they did, as I'm kind of just looking over the notes, which is a very long thing, so I'm not going over every last little bit of it. And also the Kevin Owens bit of the storytelling of where he was going to lie. They did do an interesting bit in the match, but it didn't really fully pan out because he had both Chad Gable on the ground when he tags him, and I think Tommaso Ciampa on the ground when he tagged him. And he sat up on the top rope. Who was I going to frog splash? I had to choose who I was going to frog splash at that point in time. And he chose Chad Gable, making people think it's like, oh, maybe he still has some alliances to NXT. Within about 2-3 minutes later, Ciampa does the draping DDT to him and pins him to go along with that. So that alliance... gone. So probably Kevin Owens is just staying on Raw. It was maybe a one-time thing with that one. But overall, I thought, like I said, this match, rather enjoyable. The ending does come where you have it Seth Rollins, Keith Lee, and Roman Reigns. And they have a very good back and forth, everything to go along with that. You have Seth Rollins get caught by Keith Lee in a Death Valley driver position, which he turns into a jackhammer and pins Seth Rollins, getting rid of him. And then him and Roman Reigns have a pretty good back and forth that it does eventually lead to Keith Lee eating the Superman punch and the spear and getting the victory to go along with that. Again, I thought this was very good on that one. Roman Reigns does show respect to Keith Lee after the match, so I think they're kind of looking for something with Keith Lee on that one. I don't know if this means he's going to Raw or SmackDown or anything to go along with that as well. Who knows? Up next, you had a Becky Lynch promo, which was basically her on the triple threat match. I thought this was a good promo. And the story that she told in this match, or not in this match, but in this promo, just didn't, and I'll talk about that, but this promo just didn't match the feel that they gave to the match later on. I'll talk about that in a brief moment, because up next you had the WWE title match, which was Brock Lesnar going up against Rey Mysterio. This was short. This was good. I liked what they did here. Mysterio does try to get the pipe right away. I like that aspect. He jumps out of the ring, gets the pipe, goes for that. Brock Lesnar gets control and remains in control for a good portion for the rest of that time. Rey doesn't really have much offense. It's getting uncomfortable yet again. German suplexes, belly-to-belly suplexes, getting thrown over the announce table, things like that. Honestly, I thought this was good. Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic, runs down to the ring. He gets into the ring, and he has a towel in his hand. Like he wants to throw in the towel. But he's in the ring, which is the weird thing. So it's kind of like he's sitting there begging Brock to, kind of stop. Brock's not having it. He grabs the towel and just throws it out of the ring. He wants to go beat up Dominic. Rey Mysterio, low blow, backs off, but then Dominic, low blow to him. This eventually sets up, I think then Rey does get some shots in with a pipe, everything on that one, and then goes for the 619, but both of them do it at the same time. So it's dueling 619s. Both Dominic and Rey Mysterio go up individually, do frog splashes, and it gets a 2 count. So they go to do something else. They go back up to the top rope to do more, but Brock Lesnar gets up, German suplexes Dominic, catches Rey Mysterio, F5, and done. It was short, but I thought it was good. It was enjoyable, and even for a brief millisecond, they made you believe that Rey Mysterio was going to somehow win that match. And I thought it came off really good. So, this brings us to the main event. And this brings us to the main event. I think this is going to be a polarizing main event with this one. Yeah, Becky Lynch going up against Shayna Baszler, going up against Bayley. Here's the thing. I thought the in-ring action that they did was good. The in-ring action was good on that one. The story that they were telling leading into this, and the story that they told in the match itself, just didn't fit. Like it felt, you got that feeling of like these three just want to beat down each other throughout the entire bit. But like a good portion of the time, Becky's on the outside. And this is where I feel like a lot of it ends out not really working in the end. Because a lot of the time was with Bayley and Shayna. And Becky would, chime in here and there. And like I said, the moves that they were doing were good moves, everything on that side of it. And I found that portion enjoyable. It was the story that never really kicked and never really kicked into high gear. You never got a full intensity out of this match. And I feel like that's an aspect of a good portion of the match was Bayley, who's newly heel, going up against Shayna Baszler, who is also heel. And then Becky's chiming in here and there to go along with that. And you could definitely tell the crowd was having a hard time getting into this one as well. They were pretty much into everything else, but they were having a hard time getting into this one because you didn't know where they were going with everything. And you could tell like they were into it when Becky was in there, but that was kind of it because you were having a kind of in that main portion of the match, a heel versus heel going on. And Bayley controlling a decent portion of that as well. I thought, like I said, again, a lot of this stuff ended up being good stuff, but the story of the match never really clicked. Because you did have a good chunk of times where like Shayna Baszler is trying to go for the Carafuna clutch or preventing the disarmor because Becky does get the disarmor on Bayley at one point. And so she breaks that up, but then Bayley breaks up another one a little bit later on that one. And, Baszler is also trying to get the Carafuna clutch on both of them. And it never fully clicked in the terms of the story. And I feel like I said before, that aspect that you had so much time of Shayna Baszler and Bayley and not having much time with like either Bayley and Becky and then or Shayna Baszler and Becky on that one. You didn't really get much of that where you were having the other two really the main focal points of the matches. And I get where their story's going after the match with everything, but it also comes off a little bit weird as well because based off of where the night ends, it's where Shayna Baszler is going to be looking for revenge on Becky. Almost feels like it should be the other way around. You don't really want your heel seeking revenge on that side of everything for something that the babyface does in the end. So I'll get to the end of the match here. So Becky was thrown over the announce table by Shayna Baszler on that one. So she's out at the announce table on the other side. So you got another back and forth between Baszler and Bayley inside the ring. Eventually, Bayley goes for her elbow drop, but it gets caught into the Carafuna clutch Bayley taps out after trying to fight off a little bit with that one as well. So Shayna Baszler wins. Like I said, the in-ring action, in-ring portion of it, I thought was good, but the story just, it didn't click. And you could definitely tell with the crowd as well on that one to go along with it. So Shayna's, celebrating her victory and everything on that one. She's gloating over Becky Lynch. When she gets to the announce table area, Becky sweeps her, starts attacking Shayna, and then puts her through the German announce table. And that's where the kind of weirdness goes. In the terms of the match, Bayley should be wanting to seek revenge at least on Shayna, but you don't feel like you're going to get that in any way, shape, or form. Because now Shayna's going to want to focus on Becky for the attack. And it's weird that you have your heel seeking revenge at the end, wanting, or in the terms of their story, at the end of the pay-per-view, is seeking revenge for an attack on them. Like, they won the match, but they're going to want to seek revenge for an attack that happened. That's something that you usually have for television or something like that, at least in my mind. That's how I feel that it would generally go. And usually, if there's something at the end of a pay-per-view in the terms of an attack, usually doesn't that... In many cases, that usually happens to the babyface. And technically, the only babyface in here, though she's probably more tweener than babyface, was Becky. But she kind of comes off as sore loser in this match than like triumphant babyface in some way, shape, or form. She comes off more as of a sore loser in this one because, well, she didn't get beat. So I'm just going to attack Shayna on that one. And Bayley's kind of, over there. And Bayley's kind of over there at that point because, she should want to try to seek revenge for losing the match in there. But you don't feel like that's going to happen. But then Becky attacks Shayna, so you kind of feel like that's going to happen. And it ends up being what it was. And it wasn't that good. I'm going to be fair on that one. It wasn't that good on that side of everything. And it even makes people feel like where a lot of fans were thinking in their side of everything, oh, Bayley's in this match solely to take the fall. Well, guess what? She took the fall on that one. And they're hopefully going to continue on with something with Shayna and Becky. But now Becky comes off as kind of a sore loser in the end of it to go along with that. Like, I guess it would have felt better maybe if they had something where Becky's wanting to seek revenge because she was that close to winning, which you never really got that sense either in the match. Like, it didn't feel like Becky almost won. Like, in many instances, it almost felt like Bayley almost won the match, but just fell short. Like, it would have been where maybe like Becky was trying to break up something or a pinfall or a submission or something like that and just misses out on doing that. Would have been a little bit better way going. I don't necessarily know. But overall, yeah, the main event was a disappointment in the terms of the story that they decided to tell in that side. Honestly, the in-ring stuff, they're really good. And I thought that was really good. But its story just didn't really resonate in where they were trying to go with everything. And that's just kind of it's kind of an honest opinion I had of the show itself. Like, the only matches that I felt like didn't really click in the terms of their story or coming off on believability or anything like that. And even to a sense, the believability of the main event was a little bit more than the other one that I was more disappointed in, which was the tag team match, the tag team triple threat on the pre-show. Yeah, those were really I felt really the only down points of the show. Obviously, there was some weirdness that happened in the men's elimination tag match to go along with it, but to a certain degree, that was still fun. There was still a lot of fun there. Not necessarily where I was seeing with that triple threat at the end of the pre-show and also with the main event itself. Like I said, I thought the in-ring action all the way through was actually fun and good. It was just like some stories just, they didn't click in some way, shape, or form. And that's pretty much everything I have for Survivor Series this year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video in any way, shape, or form. If you did, give it a like, share, subscribe, however you would like to potentially support the channel. I do thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and take care.